right, if you haven't already said hi in the chat, definitely say hi. Over the next 30 or 40 minutes, I'm about to teach you all about mastering macros. This is a very specific webinar diving deep into tracking macros. You're finally going to understand why nothing has really worked for you before and how this specific framework is going to work for you. We do things different at Fit and Balanced, even if you've tracked macros before. We just do things a little bit differently. So before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and then stay tuned for the end because we'll have a Q&A section. I know there's going to probably be a decent amount of questions. And then if you do stay till the end, you get an extra special webinar exclusive discount on one-on-one coaching. It's literally insane. So be sure to stay tuned to the end for that. Today, we are going to be going over pinpointing the problem when it comes to dieting and why nothing works, the binge restrict cycle, falling off the wagon, all or nothing mentality, like why can't we just stick to the things? We're going to talk about guilt-free eating, overcoming food labels, breaking that binge restrict dieting cycle, and how macros help with all three of these things. We're going to go over understanding macros because knowledge is power, and understanding how they work, macros versus calories, what are macros, literally what they do inside your body and why we want to track each one, and then macro calculation guidelines. Okay, so that is the agenda today. A little bit about me, and throw in the chat, have you been to a webinar before, or is this your first webinar for Fit and Balance? Because I've hosted quite a few. So let me know in the chat if this is your first one or if you've joined before. A little bit about me. I used to eat 1,000 calories a day. I avoided carbs. I was an exercise cardio bunny. I did fasted cardio. And all of this led to being really scared of food, being really insane about the scale and the number on the scale, and also binge eating and just a really restrictive lifestyle. My relationship with my now husband kind of suffered from it too. Just very not flexible, very rigid, not feeling my body well. And I had a lot of low energy, low libido, imbalanced hormones. Like it was bad, but not only that, I didn't see the results that I wanted. I wasn't confident in my body, and I was very annoyed at that. That actually led me to, let me let someone else in, hold on. That actually led me to quitting. And I just decided, you know what, if I'm doing all this crap and I'm not seeing results, I am going to just stop. Like, what is the point? You know, let's fall off the wagon. And eventually I was really tired of not being happy with my lifestyle, not fueling my body, not feeling healthy, not feeling confident in my body. So I actually invested like 4 figures into my own education and certification for personal training. And I had no intention of ever coaching anyone about it. Joke's on me. But never intended on coaching. And I just wanted to learn. I just wanted to learn how my body worked, what to do, how to get results, but I wanted to do it in a balanced way. So all of this education that I dove into led to my first reverse diet. I learned how to track macros the non-obsessive way, because here on the left, I tracked macros and it was horrible. Here on the right, I tracked macros and it was incredible. You know what I mean? So I learned how to track macros the non-obsessive way, had my own transformation, realized it didn't have to be that hard. It didn't have to be that complicated. You actually could see results by eating more, doing less, having food freedom, flexible dieting, all of the good things. And I started coaching. I was like, all right, I gotta spill the tea and help other people do this because I wasted so many years and there is no need for that. All right, so here is the Fit and Balance coaches, or here are the Fit and Balance coaches. One thing about us is we're always working on continuing education and certifications to give our clients the best of the best. Every coach is pretty much always in an ongoing continuing education unit for our certifications to keep everything up to date. And just like alive, like you have to keep those CEUs up to date. And fun fact, since I am pregnant, we are all getting our and not just because of that, but that was a big reason for me personally. We're all getting our pre and postnatal certifications right now, which is really, really fun. And then before I dive into all of the macro nitty gritties, I want to show you what's possible via macros. So here is a client case study. You're only going to see a couple of these throughout the webinar as examples. This is Heather. She didn't really want to get a coach. She didn't really trust coaches. She tried every diet you can think of on her own. She had weight loss surgery and nothing really ever worked. Even after that weight loss surgery, the weight came back. There's a reason for that. And it's because she didn't change her lifestyle. Eventually, after all that, her doctor told her to eat 800 calories a day to lose weight. So that's fun. And she realized that was probably not healthy. That was the last straw for her. She ended up joining Fit and Balance. And then after working with us, she was down well over 20 pounds. She never felt like she was dieting because of her macros, which you're going to learn about today. She had bread every day, which was new for her. That was like a whole new world for her, eating bread. Fun fact, a lot of clients, and what stemmed from this webinar, even like the idea coming to life, is from a client chat about eating bagels every day when they used to be scared of bagels. That's just like a thing, I guess. Women are scared of bread and bagels, but I'll teach you how to eat them guilt-free. She was eating 2,000 calories a day. She enjoyed her workouts. She also did all this while she was having a major job change and moving from New York to Florida, and even had to live in an RV for a time being while their house was being built. So busy, busy, busy bee. But that is what's possible with macros. So let me know, type yes in the chat if you're ready to learn about macros, if you're ready to get results similar to this, because you definitely can. Another just like icing on top, I say you definitely can see results with macros. And in this webinar, you're only going to see a very few amount of client case studies, but just keep in mind, we have had hundreds of women follow our framework when it comes to macros, and it's worked. So it will work for you. Your body and lifestyle are no different. Okay. So while we get into it, let's start with pinpointing the problem and talking about diet culture and kind of like some of the flaws with it and why it doesn't work. Because education is power. And when we kind of understand the why behind things, it makes us think differently. So as we get into this part, I would love to know, since also this is a lot of your first webinar for Fit and Balance, so that's exciting. I would love to know, what diets have you tried? Let me know in the chat if you feel comfortable, what diets you've tried or ways of eating. You know, if you tried macros, Weight Watchers, Optavia, 21-Day Fix, military diet, just put it in the chat. And we're going to talk about why most diets fail while you are doing that. Here are the top reasons that most diets are not going to last long term. Number one, they're too restrictive. It is basic human behavior to want what you can't have. And when you spend so much energy restricting, it is inevitable that you're going to have a binge-like behavior manifest. You're going to restrict during the week, binge on the weekend, restrict during the day, binge at night. Let me know if anyone's been there. I'm seeing a lot of diets in the chat, Weight Watchers, Whole30, 1,200 calories or less with cheat days. Keto was the devil. Yeah, lots of low calorie, low fat, too many, can't even remember. So you feel that, OMG, all of them. Yep. Okay. So you've probably dealt with this too restrictive kind of lifestyle too. Another problem with a lot of common diets, all the ones that are in the chat, Weight Watchers, Whole30, 1,200 calories, Jenny Craig, right? Keto, Optavia, all of those fad diets is what we're going to call them, don't have the right education you need for long-term results. So fat loss and building muscle is all a science, and it's not that complicated to learn actually, but lots of dieting programs out there don't educate you on that science, and you blindly follow the rules. Like, you have to eat 1,200 calories. Why are we all following a 1,200 calorie diet when we're all so different? You know, make it make sense. You're blindly following the rules without rhyme or reason. And for a lot of them, even, especially like Noom and sometimes Weight Watchers, Optavia, you don't actually know how many calories you're eating, what your macros are. There's no plan for reverse dieting. And all of those things count toward your progress, whether you are paying attention to them or not. Another problem with diets is you can become really food obsessed. So you're constantly worrying about food, you're feeling bad about eating, you're being scared about how the scale will be impacted by what you eat. Like, let me know if you've ever been there. I'm sure I'm not the only one. You're just kind of food obsessed. They encourage a good versus bad food mentality, which I think we can all resonate with. You think carbs are bad, you can't have sugar, you need to only eat clean. If you have a burger with the bun with fries, it feels like you broke the dieting laws and you need to go to fasted cardio jail the next morning. And all of this good versus bad mentality leads to insane guilt. Another problem is they're unsustainable. If you can only do something short term, results are going to be short term. Example, if you can only cut out carbs for 2 weeks and then you're like, holy heck, I need some rice, I need a bagel, I want some bread, I want some carbs, not sustainable. Your results are also going to be unsustainable. And then probably the biggest problem I have with a lot of these dieting programs that I'm seeing is the negative consequences to your health. So we're talking about a downregulated metabolism, low energy, brain fog, no libido, no progress, imbalanced hormones, a negative relationship with food and calories, a negative relationship with your body and the scale, and feeling lost and confused about what to do next. And then all of this also leads to the binge restrict cycle. So let's talk about something a little more positive. Guilt-free eating, overcoming food labels, and breaking that binge restrict cycle. All three of those things can be done by tracking macros the correct way. So has anyone, I think I have seen it in the chat by like one of you, has anyone ever tracked macros before? And it's okay if you track macros and you didn't like them because you probably didn't do it the way that we preach it, but let me know. Samantha said me. Okay, cool. Has anyone else ever tracked macros before? All right, cool. So let's talk about tracking macros. I've tried, but I was very restrictive, so I wasn't doing it right for sure. There's a right and wrong way to track macros. So let's talk about the benefits of macros and how to never have a failed diet again. You literally cannot fail when you're giving your mind and body exactly what it needs to thrive. That is the point of macros. Like I said, it's a science and you cannot fail. Brittany said, been learning with Julie since starting with Fit and Balanced. Yeah, you have. So with tracking macros, here are 4 reasons that macros simply work, but they work long term. It's not like cutting carbs where you can maybe do it for me, like a day or like a couple days, but maybe you can make it longer, like a week, 2 weeks, a month, and then you go overboard. It's not like that. When you learn how to do things properly, you're learning how to eat for your body in a way that you can continue eating for the rest of your life, even when you are no longer tracking macros. That's the point. They are such an incredible tool to use. So 4 reasons they work. Your body is getting exactly what it needs to thrive. There's no more guesswork. There's no more confusion. There's no more frustration. Your body's getting exactly what it needs for your goals, whether it's fat loss or muscle building or body recomp or your relationship with food or all of the above. You can practice food freedom 24/7 if you track macros correctly. So learning how to easily fit in the foods that you love, learning how to have that bagel every day for breakfast or with breakfast if you want, learning how to go on date nights and how to order crumble cookie and not feel bad about it while still seeing results. You can learn how to eat normal food like a normal human being. This is where like the long-term results come from. So there's no more stress when you're going out to eat or when you're going on vacation or when you're going to events or parties or holidays. You just learn literally how to eat normal food like a normal human, guilt-free. You don't have to say, oh, I can't have that, it's not on my diet, or oh, I need to avoid that, or I can't have sugar, I can't have carbs, I'm low fat. No, it's all balanced. And you can eat a burger. You can eat also grilled chicken and veggies. You can also eat crumble cookie. You can also eat fruit and yogurt. You know what I mean? You can just eat normal food. Nothing is against the rules or off limits. And then sustainability. You actually get results that last because that method of eating and the food that you're eating and the amount that you're eating and the ratios of each macro that you're eating is sustainable for you. And it's super easy to start intuitive eating after you track macros for long enough and get the results that you want. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat. Real quick case study before we move on to understanding macros. So Riley is a really good example of how macros can transform not only your body, but your lifestyle, mindset, and just health and fitness long-term, because that is the goal. With Riley, I love her, joining Fit and Balance was her last resort. She almost didn't join. She had a lot of hesitations because she didn't believe it would work. She had tried and failed so many other diets and programs. She was super confused by all the conflicting information on social media. She tried all the fad diets. She lowered her calories as much as possible. I think one of you in the chat said, you've tried all the things, you can't even remember everything. Same for Riley. And her biggest thing is she would be consistent for a little bit, like maybe a few weeks, and then she'd fall off the wagon. But she wanted fat loss, she wanted balance, she wanted to build a lifestyle she could maintain, and that's what we worked on. So she actually was in the program for about a year, and she's still going, not in the program anymore, but just on her own, because it's actually sustainable for her. And this all happened via tracking macros, the flexible and the balanced way. Okay, so we're about to dive into macro specifics. Are you ready? Are you still with me? Type a yes in the chat. And we are going to go over understanding macros. All right. So knowledge is power. Let's learn about macros and understanding macros, because you first have to understand them before you can implement them. When it comes to macros, they simply make up the calories in food. So protein is 4 calories per gram, fats are 9 calories per gram, and carbs are also 4 calories per gram. No macro is better or worse than the other. They all have a purpose, which we cover in this webinar as well in a few slides. Here is a little diagram on macros. If you want to DM me macro diagram on Instagram, I'll send this to you if you want it. But proteins are your meats, your meat substitutes, stuff like that. Fats are your butters, oils, stuff like that. Nuts, carbs are your rice, pasta, whole grains, condiments, stuff like that. There are a lot of foods that have all the macros in them. Some foods are more heavy towards 2, like Greek yogurt is mainly carbs and protein, whereas salmon is mainly protein and fat. And then whole rounded like sandwiches or protein bars or whole milk have a little bit of everything. Very rare for a type of food to just be one macro, but I mean, that can happen too. But this is a general, what actually is the food of that macro. But what I really want you to understand is how macros work versus calories, because that is a very important difference to make. When you are tracking macros, you are also tracking calories. You have a calorie goal, and there's macros that are allocated to those calories in that overarching calorie goal. But if you're just tracking calories, willy wonky, not paying attention to macros, that is not tracking macros, and that is where you will be leaving a lot of progress on the table. Is that like a proper saying? I'm not even sure. So calories versus macros. Macros help determine your body composition. So that means your fat and your muscle mass percentages. So are you losing fat? Are you building muscle? Or are you losing muscle? And are you gaining fat? Are you losing muscle, but not losing fat? Like, what is happening with your body composition? And without the proper macro ratio, because it's a science, you're not going to see progress. And the thing is, whether you want to hear this or not, macros count toward your fat loss and body recomp progress, whether you track them or not. That's just how it works. You can't just ignore them. They're still counting towards your progress. So here is an example. Hopefully this will help it just make sense. You can lose weight in a calorie deficit. Lose weight. But that weight isn't necessarily fat or muscle. Like, weight is just weight, but are we losing fat? Are we losing muscle, or vice versa? For example, if you're not getting enough protein, you're likely going to be losing muscle first because it's more metabolically expensive to keep on your body. If you are getting enough protein and you're doing other things correctly, then maybe you are maintaining that muscle mass and you're actually losing fat. So it's really important to understand that weight loss is not always a good thing. Weight gain is not always a bad thing. Weight, in fact, doesn't matter. What we want to pay attention to is your body composition and your fat loss and your muscle gain. So macros help with that. Comment if that makes sense. Like, give me a yes, you understand, in the chat. Calories are king and we use them, but macros are queen. So, you know, if you've watched Queen Charlotte or anything like that, or the queen in a game of chess, they make all the rules. You know, we know how that works, and macros make the results happen. Samantha asked, will these slides be available after? You'll have 7 days of access to the replay to watch it. So yes, for 7 days, they'll be available after. You'll get them in your email. Okay, how macros work in your body. We're going to go over each one. When it comes to, no worries, it's okay if your toddler keeps talking. You will have access to the replay. How macros work in your body. Protein is responsible for muscle growth and maintenance. It aids in digestion and energy production. It helps with hormone balance. It helps with satiety a ton, and it has the highest thermic effect of food. So your body burns more calories digesting protein than it burns like digesting carbs or fats. And another thing to note is, because of the satiety, a high protein diet, especially if you're in a calorie deficit, is going to help keep you fuller. It's going to help keep you more satisfied, and it's going to promote just that sustainability of weight loss and like adherence to those macros, which are keys to seeing long-term progress. When it comes to fats, fats are also important. Every macro is important. Fats help create and balance hormones, provide energy, helps transport fat-soluble vitamins, helps regulate our temperature, forms our brain and nervous systems, helps increase or decrease inflammation, antioxidant absorption, and flavor and satiety. You need fats to survive. Tongue twister for some reason for me. And then carbs are the body's preferred source of energy. They should account for about half or more of your daily calories. They supply the body with all the energy for your metabolic activity, which also allows protein and fats to stay in their zone of genius. So carbs can stay in their zone of genius. Everyone has a zone of genius. It's like you're on a sports team, like for volleyball, we need a setter, we need a hitter, we need someone on the back row, a libero. You know what I mean? I don't know why that example came to my mind, but it did, because I used to play volleyball. We each have a zone of genius for a lot of things in life, and macros are no different. And if we are eating each one in adequate amounts, we're allowing each macro to like work its magic inside our body. Carbs fill your glycogen stores in your muscles to help with your workouts and help you even have that like toned look, promote better sleep. And then most of all, which is why it's just weird that we want to avoid carbs. Carbs are where you're going to get all of your fiber and majority of your macronutrients, micronutrients via fruit and veggies. So why would you want to avoid carbs? Like, let's make it make sense. Carbs can actually help with fat loss. So, I mean, come on, we love carbs, right? So it's really important to have a healthy balance of all three to make sure that you're getting literally everything that you need to thrive, but also to see results. Now, let's get into some macro calculation guidelines, and let me know if anyone has any questions so far. Please put them in the chat. I'm trying to keep an eye on it, and I will answer those at the end on our Q&A. Macro calculation guidelines. So here are guidelines to consider when you are calculating your macros. Protein should normally be 0.7 to 1 times your body weight. Fats should normally be 25 to 30% of your calorie goal. And then carbs are typically just whatever's left over after we set protein and fats. Usually it's going to be 40 to 50% of calories. I will say, as coaches and just inside our program, we refer to these guidelines. Like there's no set calculation for the perfect macro breakdown for each person. So we definitely use these guidelines, but they're never set in stone. Instead, what we typically look at as coaches are the guidelines, yes, very important, but also your dieting history, your metabolism, your goals, your lifestyle, your hunger cues, digestion, energy, aka biofeedback, menstrual cycle, menopause or no menopause, hormones, stress levels, preferences, strength, activity levels, job, age, height, weight, like that's all important too. All of these things are things that we consider before we set a macro goal. And I say this to say, all right, emphasize this. So I don't even know how to talk. Words are hard. I want you to understand that your body is so much more than a simple calculation can compute. That's just not how your dynamic, ever-changing, adapting body works when it comes to calculating things. So for example, inside our program, we're looking at all of these things plus the macro calculation guidelines. And that is how we are going to set goals for you. We also normally have our clients track on their own without any goals, just to get a baseline of where they're at before making any changes. So any adjustments that we're going to make are natural and optimal and like easier in a way for your body. So kind of using a macro calculator or doing it on your own or being strict, that's a one-time macro calculation, and you really don't have any idea where to go from there, or if it's the right fit, or if you even need to make adjustments, or even if it's feasible for your goals, because it's really hard just to have the perfect calculation versus being inside a program like ours. You, and the way like we do things, and I'm sure some other coaches do things too, you're getting natural adjustments and protocols set based on your body's biofeedback and what your body's actually telling us, plus this stuff. But it's not just a calculation, because your body's so much more than that. It's an entirely different experience, produces entirely different results. And if you tracked macros before and it didn't work, I guarantee it's because you didn't do it right. And that is why our clients are so successful, like some of the examples you've seen in this webinar, because they did it right. So just side note, if you do want some support, accountability, you want to dive deeper into your goals, your body, your lifestyle, highly recommend one-on-one coaching with Imbalanced. But all this to say, your body is just so much more than a calculation. So let me know, going back to this real quick in the chat, does this make sense? And you will have access to the replay for 7 days. So if you have questions about this, let me know in the chat, but you can also review it in the replay as well. So your body is so much more than a calculation. Throw some questions in the chat. We'll get to them at the end. And of course, I just want to show you what is possible when you ditch the old school way of dieting and kind of educate yourself on what your body needs. I think it's really common to think, oh, it worked for them, but it's not going to work for me. No, that is not the case. Let's talk about that. Kelsey works 6-7 days per week. She has really long days, up to 11 hours. She lives in an RV with her husband and their cats and travels to different job sites for work, AKA she is on the go frequently. And because of that, nothing that she tried before was ever sustainable. She could stay consistent for a couple weeks, but then she'd fall off the wagon, literally until macros and until the way we teach macros, because we just do it a little bit differently. Kelsey made this happen. And I would say she has all the excuses in the world to say she's too busy, it's too hard, she literally lives on the road, but she does it anyway and is honestly one of our most consistent clients. And I just want to say there's nothing special about her. We've helped her find a sustainable method that fits into her life, and that's why it works. Macros are sustainable. That's why they work. They're enjoyable, they're sustainable, they foster food freedom. This is a case study that I just added. It's the last one because it cracks me up. This is Kelly. She's a mom, 2 boys, lives a busy life, driving them around, doing all of the post-school extracurricular events. And it was really important that she lose fat in a sustainable way and a long-term way, because again, she had tried everything and just felt overwhelmed when it came to workouts and meals and actually executing it all. She was also post-menopause and just felt like nothing seemed to work for her anymore. But with custom macros and adjustment, and as you can see, she went through several nutritional phases as well, like maintenance, reverse dieting, maintenance, fat loss phases. Her results were inevitable, because that's what happens when you give your body what it needs, But the reason this case study cracks me up is because I have a quote from her. She says, I was the person who was annoyed when people counted calories or macros, but it was my time. I wanted to gain comfort in my own body. I wanted the confidence to have a picture taken. I wanted to enjoy sweets and still lose fat. And oh my, the muscle gain. So proud of how far I've come. Looking forward to the future. Lifelong fan in me. So it just cracks me up. She literally did not like people who tracked macros, and then she became one of those people. And the cool thing about macros is you don't have to track them forever. Once you reach your goal and you feel confident fueling your body, you can let go of that tool and you still have that same method, that same way of eating, because we're not cutting anything out, we're not restricting anything, we're not under fueling. It's very balanced. So wouldn't it be nice to feel like this, and to get the results, and to feel confident in your skin, and to keep said results your whole life, while also loving your lifestyle? And I see some questions coming through. I will definitely get to those at the Q&A. Keep them coming at the end. We just have a couple slides left. And before we get to the Q&A, we're going to go over something special. So comment yes if you're still with me. And we're going to go over your exclusive one-on-one coaching discount, and then I'll get to the Q&A. So just remember, I know I've showed you a few case studies, but unlike other fad diets or quick fixes or anything like that, these results are all very typical with our clients. You don't have to wonder, will this work for me? It will. When it's custom, when it's based on your body, when it's based on your biofeedback, when it's based on your lifestyle, when it's done in a balanced way, your results are inevitable. The macros are not going to fail. Obviously, we pair those with other things and pair that with accountability and a game plan. But you're really unstoppable when that happens. We've transformed over like 500 lives now, I think, through fit and balance coaching. And I promise, there ain't nothing special about you that our clients don't also have. You know what I mean? That everyone is just so different, so unique. So I promise you're no different. You can get results too. So you're officially invited to join Fit and Balance one-on-one coaching. And since you're watching this webinar, you get $500 off for a limited time. I'm going to go over that. Then we'll get to the Q&A. I'll do this pretty quickly. When it comes to one-on-one coaching, here's how it works. We have lots of moving pieces to it, but the gist of it, support and accountability. You have one-on-one access to your coach, so your questions are always answered. You have endless support. You get to set up multiple one-on-one Zoom calls with your coach. We have monthly community calls with all the coaches and all the clients, so you're surrounded by like-minded women, full of motivation, accountability, and just connecting. Like, find your tribe. You become like the people you're hanging around. So this community keeps you on track in and of itself. You have weekly one-on-one check-ins, so you have all the accountability and education, but also any adjustments you need based on your biofeedback. We only make adjustments based on the data that your body is giving us, so you can make continued progress. It's completely custom, and we have a long-term lifestyle approach, so you can move on your own one day. You can start out with 6 months of customized protocols, flexible dieting, all the macro nutrition game plan things based on your goals, lifestyle, metabolism, dieting history, preferences. You have client app access for tracking progressive overload, syncing with MyFitnessPal, tracking steps, any other custom goals. I bet your coach is going to have a water goal for you or a mindset goal for you. And everything is just all organized and in one place. And then custom workout programming, gym or home, and video tutorials for everything, so you know exactly what to do. And this is whether you can work out 1 time a week, 5 times a week, at home, in the gym, both, doesn't matter. It is completely built for your lifestyle, because the goal is to integrate everything into your life in a way that you can literally continue for life. And then not only that, we really want this to be the last program you ever need. So we have our education and implementation of it all. You get access to Fit and Balance Academy, which is lifetime access to all of our client resources, so you can understand the why behind what you're doing and how it's working. think about this webinar, but like on steroids. You're getting lifetime access to 30 plus on-demand modules. You have access to recipe packs. We're going over things like macros, reverse dieting, tracking one-pot meals, intuitive eating, like training, lifting weights, progressive overload, all the different things. And you get lifetime access to any future updates too. So this literally ensures this is the last program you ever need. If we were to like separate all of this, the total monthly value for each thing added up is literally $2,600, but you get in for way less than that, and even less because as a webinar bonus, if you join the webinar, if you join one-on-one coaching in the next 7 days from this webinar, then you get $500 off. So I'm posting the link in the chat, but here is a link right here too. Also check your email and check spam or promotions or wherever it could go, because that is where you're going to be getting the webinar replay for 7 days. And that is also where you're going to get this exclusive link. This is a special application link that qualifies you for $500 off if you join within 7 days. So how it works, you literally just submit an application. It tells us about your goals, your dieting history, your lifestyle, just about you, because that's important for one-on-one coaching. Number 2, you're going to get an email, probably 30 to an hour, for sure within 24 hours of applying, but pretty soon after, with your program details, payment plan options, all of the things, and like an overview video. So you can literally join right then and there. And or I'll be reaching out to you if you have any questions you want covered first. And then once you review all that and you're like, yeah, it's a good fit, you just join. Onboarding takes 2 to 3 days, usually to get started, minus like part of the weekend. And then you have your custom game plan for inevitable success in the next 6 to 12 months. I do like to say, I like to think of Fit and Balance as like shopping at Aritzia versus Walmart. It is just a different experience. So custom, so high level, so just made for you, and making sure everything integrates into your lifestyle. It's just different here. That's why it's sustainable. That's why it works. That's why everyone gets results. So you have 7 days to get $500 off. Be sure to check your email, check spam, and go. Now for our Q&A, I saw some questions, so let me answer those. I saw someone say you should calculate your macros to the weight you want to be versus what you are. Any truth to that? What do you mean, Zoanne? Calculate your macros to the weight you want to be. I'm assuming, do you just mean protein, or do you mean full on macros? But to answer that, I'm gonna pull the chat over here. To answer that, no. We should be calculating your macros based on your goals. So like if you are going into a fat loss phase, you're not gonna have maintenance calories and like macros that are allocated for maintenance calories. We're gonna have fat loss calories and fat loss macros. So it's not based off of a goal weight, because we don't know what your weight is going to be or what your goal weight even should be. And if you do that, like let's say you set protein to where your maybe goal weight is, it could be too low, but it just kind of depends. So yes and no. Let me know if that helped answer your question. You want to track macros based on where you're at and based on what your goal is, but we don't use like goal weights for tracking macros. We just need to make sure your body is getting what it needs for whatever phase that is in, whether that's a fat loss phase or a muscle building phase, a maintenance phase, etc. Samantha, how do you know when to enter the various stages, maintenance versus fat loss? I've heard you shouldn't stay in fat loss for more than a specified time period, even if you aren't at your goals yet. Yeah, you shouldn't. There is a time and place for that. Samantha, we actually have a reverse dieting webinar that kind of goes over this for you. If you want to DM me reverse dieting webinar on Instagram, I'm happy to send you the replay to that. Because that's getting outside of macros, and that is a whole nother training in and of itself, because a lot goes into that. So if you want to learn how to read your biofeedback, and when you need a reverse versus when it's maybe safer to diet or what is too long to diet, DM me reverse dieting webinar and I will send you the replay to that. Cool, will do. Bridget, I go to the gym twice a day. I live in an RV to get my steps in, but go out at night for weights. My goal is to gain muscle and lose 5 to 8 pounds of fat. Is this okay? What do you mean? Is this okay? You mean, can you do that? Like, can you gain muscle and lose 5 to 8 pounds of fat? Absolutely. But I mean, none of our clients, is it too much in the gym? It depends. I would need to know way more about you and your training history and what your actual calories are at and your activity levels and your stress. And if we have any hormone complications going on, to be able to answer that. But I would normally say, why are we working out twice a day? None of our clients do it. I don't do it. It's unnecessary for most people, but it would just depend. All right. So don't forget, you have 7 days to get your application in for one-on-one coaching, and you are getting $500 off, and it's an insane deal. So go get your application in, you're going to see the program details, and you get $500 off any payment plan that you want, and you're locked into that discount for life. DM me on Instagram if you have any follow-up questions from this. I'm happy to answer them. And let me stop my screen share. And I will see y'all in the next webinar. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed mastering macros. Be sure to check your email and spam for access to the replay for 7 days if you need to review anything. All right. Bye, everyone.